Look at your mind. Notice how it grips onto ideas, onto opinions. That political stance you defend so fiercely, that image of yourself as successful or as a failure. That story about what someone did to you years ago that still tightens your chest. Why does this happen? Why do we treat these mental formations as solid, unchangeable realities? Why do we suffer so greatly for our concepts? The Buddha identified this grasping, this clinging, as the fundamental source of suffering, dukkha. But it was a philosopher who came centuries later who would provide the most devastatingly logical deconstruction of this entire process. A man who was not just a mystic but a formidable logician who would use reason to dismantle reason itself. His name was Nagarjuna, and his target was what he called svabhava, a Sanskrit term meaning inherent existence, own being, or substance. It's the unconscious assumption that things exist independently from their own side with a permanent, unchanging essence. We don't just see a table, we see a solid, independent object called table. We don't just experience a fleeting feeling of anger. We believe in a solid, independent self that is angry. This reification, this turning of processes into substances, of interdependent events into independent things, is the prison. And Nagarjuna came to show us that the walls of this prison are made of nothing but our own concepts. What if the very solidity of your world is an illusion? What if your deepest suffering stems from a simple, correctable error in perception? The historical Buddha taught a middle way between the extremes of sensual indulgence and self-mortification, a practical path between too tight and too loose. But Nagarjuna, in his seminal work, the Madhyamaka, the fundamental verses on the middle way, radicalized this into a comprehensive philosophical method. He applied the middle way to reality itself, navigating between two equally dangerous metaphysical extremes. On one side, we have eternalism, the belief that things have a permanent, unchanging essence, that there's some core, independent thing that constitutes you, the world, everything. This is the home of the belief in an eternal soul, of fixed identities, of fundamental particles that are truly solid. On the other side, we have nihilism, the belief that nothing exists at all, that because things lack a permanent essence, they are utterly non-existent, that life is meaningless, morality is arbitrary, and all is void in the most negative sense. Nagarjuna saw that both were wrong views. His genius was to show that it is precisely because things are not fundamentally solid that they can appear and function at all. To solve this, he introduced a crucial framework, the Two Truths Doctrine. There is conventional truth, samvriti satya. This is the everyday, practical reality where tables exist, you have a name, and causality functions. We need this truth to live, to communicate, to practice compassion, and there is ultimate truth, paramartha satya. This is the deeper understanding that all these conventionally real things are empty of inherent, independent existence. The conventional is not false. It's like a mirage. A mirage is real as a mirage, and you genuinely see it, but it's empty of the water it appears to be. In the same way, the world is real as a dependent, conventional appearance, but empty of the solidity we project onto it. Nagarjuna doesn't ask you to deny your experience. He asks you to understand its true nature, and to do that, we need his most powerful tool. At the heart of Nagarjuna's philosophy, and indeed all of Buddhism, lies the principle of pratysamutpada, dependent origination. Nothing exists independently. Everything arises dependent on multiple causes and conditions. Everything is interconnected. Nagarjuna took this simple but profound idea and weaponized it with relentless logic. He used classical analogies. Take a chariot. Is the chariot the same as its parts? No. Is it different from its parts? No. Does it possess its parts? Is it in its parts? We search for the chariot and find only a collection of components assembled based on a concept and a function. The label chariot is a convenient designation for a temporary assembly. It's empty of a chariot essence. Now, apply this to the most cherished concept of all, the self. What you call I is a temporary confluence of the five aggregates, or skandhas: body, sensations, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Are you your body? Your body changes completely every 7 years. Are you your thoughts? Your thoughts come and go, and you witness them. Are you your memories? You forget most of them. We search for the self within the body, outside the body, in the feelings, in the consciousness, and we find no solid, independent, permanent entity. There is the process of thinking, but no thinker apart from the thought. There is the experience of pain, but no solid sufferer separate from the pain itself. The self is a verb pretending to be a noun, and this applies to everything. A moment in time is dependent on the moments before and after it. Light is defined in relation to darkness. Good is meaningful only in relation to bad. Nagarjuna systematically goes through every fundamental category of existence: motion, time, causality, the self, and shows they are all empty of independent reality. They are all dependently arisen. This is not a theory to be believed. It is a reality to be seen, and when you start to see it, the solid world begins to liquefy. This is the most critical moment. The greatest misunderstanding about Nagarjuna's philosophy is to think that shunyata, emptiness, means nothingness, nihilism, or a bleak void where nothing matters. This is completely wrong. Nagarjuna's most famous dictum is, "Emptiness is dependent arising." To be empty is to be dependently arisen. They are two sides of the same coin. Think about it. If something truly had inherent independent existence, it would be static, isolated, and dead. It could never interact, never change, never grow. It is precisely because you are empty of a fixed self that you can learn, change, and transform. It is because a seed is empty of a fixed seed nature that it can become a tree. Emptiness is not the absence of existence. It is the absence of static, independent existence. It is the presence of potential, of relationship, of life itself. Nagarjuna offers emptiness as a medicine. It's a prescription to cure the disease of clinging. We suffer because we cling to things as if they were permanent and able to satisfy us on their own. But since everything is empty, this clinging is doomed to fail. We are grasping at water. Seeing emptiness is the ultimate letting go, and in that letting go, the world arises with more clarity, more vividness, and less sting. The beauty of a sunset isn't diminished by its emptiness, it's enhanced because you see it for what it truly is, a fleeting, miraculous, interdependent play of light, with no demand for it to last forever. But what about the theory of emptiness itself? Is it ultimately true? Nagarjuna, in a move of breathtaking philosophical consistency, applies the razor of emptiness to emptiness itself. He declares that emptiness itself is empty. It is not a new, higher substance or absolute reality. It is merely a useful concept, a therapeutic tool. If you cling to emptiness as a new truth, you have missed the point entirely. The Buddha said he is like a doctor who gives you medicine. Once you are cured, do you keep carrying the medicine bottle? So what does this second-century philosophy have to do with you, right now, today? Everything. The digital age is the age of reification. It is a machine for creating and solidifying concepts, and Nagarjuna's teachings have never been more relevant. Let's start with the self. Your social media profile is a perfect example of a constructed identity. You curate it, polish it, and present it as a solid, successful, happy you. And then you suffer from imposter syndrome and anxiety. Why? Because you are clinging to this digital construct as if it were your true, solid self. You're trying to make a mirage solid. seeing its emptiness, seeing that it's just a useful, conventional label for a complex, changing reality, releases the pressure. You can use the profile without being used by it. Now consider ideology. Our political and social tribalism is the reification of concepts. Conservative, liberal, nationalist, globalist. We treat these labels as if they refer to solid, independent enemy realities. We fight over the concepts, but if we see that these are empty, conventional designations for a fluid spectrum of interdependent ideas, the grip of tribalism loosens. We can engage in dialogue without demonizing. We can see the person behind the label. And what of consumerism? The entire advertising industry is built on selling you a solid identity. Buy this car to be successful. Wear these clothes to be cool. It preys on the belief that you lack something and can find it in a product. Emptiness reveals this as the ultimate hollow promise. No product can give you a self because the self you're trying to solidify isn't there to begin with. Understanding emptiness doesn't make you passive. It makes you flexible, creative, and compassionate. When you're not defending a solid self, you can listen. When you're not clinging to a fixed outcome, you can adapt. When you see the interconnectedness of all things, compassion becomes the most natural response in the world. So where does this journey leave us? We began in the prison of concepts, believing in the solidity of ourself, our opinions, our world. We met Nagarjuna, who provided the logical keys to this prison, showing us that the very nature of reality is interdependence, a flowing, dependently arising process, empty of the solidity we project upon it. This is not a journey to a new answer. It is a relaxation of the mind's grip on all answers. It is the peace of letting go. Realizing emptiness is not about acquiring some profound mystical experience. It's about the profound freedom in seeing your ordinary experience clearly. The sound of the rain is just the sound of the rain. The feeling of sadness is just a feeling, arising and passing. The thought about yourself is just a thought, not a truth. You are not a solid being having occasional spiritual experiences. You are a spiritual experience, a flowing, empty, luminous process, momentarily imagining yourself to be a solid being. As Nagarjuna himself wrote in his precious garland, when the concept of emptiness is correctly grasped, it releases one from the net of dogmatic views. But if it is misunderstood, it will destroy the slow-witted, like a snake wrongly grasped or a spell wrongly cast. Handle this truth with care. Use it as a tool for freedom, not as a weapon for nihilism. Let it soften you. Let it open you. The world is empty, and because it is empty, it is full of potential. Because you are empty, you are free.